Good morning. My name is Dr. David Green. I have the privilege of being able to share 5 tidbits on leadership that I've learned in my almost 60 years on this planet. The beautiful part of it is that I was able to experience quality leaders, not so quality leaders, great leaders, basic leaders, but they all brought something special, good, or maybe not as popular, but more importantly, they opened the door for me to see what kind of leader I wanted to be. I believe that leadership is really about taking care of people you're responsible for. And I want to be able to fill couple leadership, these 5 things that I learned in my journey. And I hope that as I talk, that everyone who hears my voice do what Dr. Evan O'Neill Kane did. Dr. O'Neill Kane is the chief surgeon in New York City. He wanted to prove that local anesthesia was safer and more viable than general anesthesia. Dr. Evan O'Neill Kane was looking for someone who'd be willing to go under major surgery while under the local. The day came, and he finally found someone who'd be willing to go under local anesthesia, awake, to have his appendix removed. And this was in 1921. The day came, the patient was prepped, wheeled into the operating room. Dr. Evan O'Neill Kane, like he did hundreds of times, put the local, started cutting the superficial tissues, pulled back the stump. The operation was a success. The patient recovered well. 2 days later, went home. And, oh, I forgot, Dr. Evan O'Neill Kane and the patient had one thing in common. They were the same person. To prove the viability of the local, Dr. Evan O'Neill Kane operated on himself. And that's what I want everyone who hears my voice to do. You're not going to use a scalpel, but you're going to do exploratory surgery around your heart on leadership. And as I share on leadership, I just want to share 5 basic things on leadership that I believe that you get a chance to see what kind of leader you are. And from that, you flourish into taking what's good in this, build around it, or what's useless. And if you're doing it, that's great. But this is what I've learned, okay? The first thing I want to talk about is availability. I call it the FAT theory, right? Stay faithful and available, you'll be teachable. Being a leader, especially in this business world, and we are in a customer service driven era. Our job isn't just to simply satisfy and please people, but to amaze people. How do you amaze people in this customer driven world? You show up, you talk to them, you ask them how they're doing, and you really care. When you say hello, it's not that you're walking past, hey, how you doing? And keep moving. No, you're looking at them in the face. You're shaking their hand. You're thanking them for being a part of the organization. You're asking, do you need anything? How's your training going? Is there something we can do better? You have to open yourself up. I know in the animal world, when 2 animals are fighting and the one gives up, they usually expose their neck and their belly. And because of that, their life is spared, especially when they're the same species. So when we ask, what can we do to be better? We have to be willing to hear what they have to say. Whether we agree or not, we listen and we thank them. And then we go to our team and let them know what the concern is. And it doesn't mean we have to sit around and say, oh, this is not us, and we defend it. No, don't defend it. Just listen and work on being better. Right, wrong, or indifferent, just work on being better. The second thing I want to talk about is being committed. Commitment. Having commitment to your employees, meaning as you're being available, be committed to the task. I hear the story of Jim Casey. I retired from UPS, like I said, 35 and a half years ago. I was at UPS for 35 and a half years. But Jim Casey, when he started UPS in 1907, there were several messenger services in Seattle, Washington. Several. And his stood the test of time. Why do you think? Well, the 2 things that I remember hearing is that, number one, he got to know his employee. And it's a beautiful story where, so when they were delivering packages, picking up people's packages, it was people he can trust because he got to know the parents of his employees. We may not be able to do that today, but I like what Bob Chapman did from Barry Wade Miller. He says he looks at anyone who comes in his organization as someone's son and daughter, and it's his responsibility to take care of. If we have that mindset, it changes your perspective. It changes how you view things. It changes how you look at things. It changes how, when you walk through your organization, it's just a whole different mindset. Instead of someone just being a transactional employee, you're now a transformational employee. Being committed goes way beyond just showing up for work, saying how you're doing. It just says, I believe in you and I want to take care of you. If they're not meeting certain standards, you have that conversation with them. You see if they're a good fit in that particular area, because people need to live. And if they're committed to come to work every day, be on time, and give their best effort, I think we can give them something that says, hey, I'm committed to you and your success. The third thing I like to talk about is sacrifice. Sacrifices is I know earning my doctorate went through a whole lot. The long nights, the writing papers, trying to stay ahead of things, and then feeling the weight of everything that's going on as I'm chasing this doctorate, But even, and then still working with UPS before I retired, and working another job, working with people with intellectual developmental disability. But the hardest thing that I struggled with was the rewrites, and still being frustrated with my chairperson. But he's the first one that congratulated me on being a doctor, and he believed in me. And I think about my mentor. When I was 11 years old, I lived in an area where there was violence, there was killings, there was drugs, and it was a very scary time in my life. Yet this gentleman was in college, came in, poured his life into me, helped me become a better person. And he was committed to drive in inner city, pick me up, take me to his college. And then 6.5 years later, I'm a student at that college. And he was able to see me earn my master's and be inducted into my second class College Hall of Fame for basketball. It's because somebody was willing to commit and sacrifice and be available. And to this day, I'm still blown away by just the journey. But those things make a difference in your leadership. Those things allow you to just not just be a basic leader, but a transformational leader that goes beyond the word transactional. The fourth thing I want to talk about is character. Character. There is no substitute for character. In a day and age in which we live, that word is thrown around, but character is the moral, ethical, and spiritual undergirdings that rest on truth, that reinforces life, and resist the temptation of compromise. How is your character? Are you the same person you are in every walk of life? I'm not saying perfect, but are you kind? Do you respect people? I remember the great football coach Tom Landry. A mentor of mine knew Tom Landry, and then he talked to Tom Landry about character, and then Tom Landry said, the greatness of character is formulated, with the teams. And he said, how important is character? He says, if he doesn't want any players that didn't have character. And my mentor said, are you kidding me? He said, I'm serious. He said, when they get on drugs, we trade them all. Character. The thing I love about character is that when you persevere through challenging times, it gives proven character, and that gives hope. And we all know, we can go 7 days without water, 3 days, 7 days without food, 3 days without water, a few seconds, few minutes without oxygen to the brain, but we can only go a moment without hope. You take away hope and life is reduced to something between depression and despair. So this is called a hope transfusion, right? Being a person of character, you give hope. When people know that they can depend on you, and that starts to transform your business. It's people who aren't just looking for that paycheck, but they're willing to make a difference because they feel part of something. Just like back in 1907, those individuals who started with Jim Casey at UPS had no idea that over 100 years later, the company will still flourish. But they showed up, they showed up, they showed up. And realistically, it was an infinite mindset with Jim Casey. Make sure that as a leader, you have an infinite mindset and it's a continuation, even after you're gone. So you have to be able to pour everything you have. And the only way you do that is to be a person of character. No substitute for it. And the last thing I want to talk about leadership is integrity. Real integrity stays in place whether it's adversity or prosperity. Thomas Carlyle said it best: for every one person who can handle adversity, for every one person who can handle prosperity, there's 100 who can handle adversity. Why? Because it takes you back to the basics. The goal is just to get by, to live another day, to keep the world off our shoulders. But when you have much, that's when the challenges really come. I think it was Samuel Johnson who said, for integrity without knowledge is weak and bored, but knowledge without integrity is dangerous. And we all know about Madoff. $50 billion Ponzi scheme, had all the knowledge, but no integrity. Don't allow your leadership to not have integrity, but don't be so full of knowledge that you don't have integrity. It's a balance. It means being honest, being able to say, hey, yes, I'm struggling here. Go to the board, listen, we're struggling here. Do you have anything that you can give us? I know Nelson Mandela, great leader, we all know. And they said and they asked him, how did you become such a great leader? And he said, his dad was a tribal leader. And the two things he remembered is that that his dad had everyone sit in a circle and his dad was always the last to speak. What does that mean? That means he would talk, but he wouldn't just share his opinions. If he asked people questions because he wanted to know what they were thinking. He didn't just go off and says, well, what do you think about science today? Well, I think da, 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 da. No, he literally said, why do you think this? How would this benefit? And he was always the last to speak on his opinions. As leaders, we want to know what people are thinking. You have to be willing to give that to your team. Let them be heard. And I like the idea, as I close this off, Robert William Johnson, he was a former owner of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. And his organization won the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award for Excellence. And when he won this award, he said, we have to work even harder that comes with this award. Quality is a race with no finish line. That's how we have to be. So as you become available, committed, sacrifice, have character and integrity, you have to be willing to allow yourself to be open and exposed. In an animal world, when two animals fight, usually the one that gives up exposes neck and belly. And because of that, his life is spared, especially when they're the same species. We have to be willing to expose our belly and our neck so we can actually be safe and our legacy and our organization lives on. I want to thank you for this time, Anastasia. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share a little bit about my heart, my content. Once again, my name is Dr. David Green. I have a doctorate in strategic leadership, and it's been an honor just to share my heart as well as life lessons to make us all better people. Thank you.